The first barrage turned the enemy fleet into glowing debris. The second turned the debris into dust. The third was, by all accounts, unnecessary. But humans never stopped at necessary. Admiral, the Xel'nari fleet was completely eradicated. Ensign Carter reported, voice tight with disbelief. There are no survivors. Admiral Hayes leaned back in his command chair, watching the flickering remains on the tactical display. Good, she said simply. Across the bridge, an uneasy silence settled. The enemy had launched a surprise attack, expecting the usual dance of diplomacy and restrained warfare. Instead, they had met the full force of humanity's doctrine. If you start a fight with us, you will not get to finish it. A comms officer hesitated before speaking. We're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Tribunal. Hayes sighed. Let me guess. Something about excessive force and ethical considerations? The officer nodded. They say it was overkill. She smirked. No, that was a warning shot. The transmission crackled through the bridge speakers, a synthesized voice dripping with forced civility. Admiral Hayes of the Terran Dominion, the Galactics. Tribunal formally requests an immediate ceasefire and an investigation into... Hayes cut the transmission with a wave of her hand. I'm not in the mood for lectures. Commander Rourke, her second-in-command, raised an eyebrow. You do realize ignoring the tribunal is going to make us a bigger target? Hayes chuckled. We just reduced an entire armada to cosmic dust. You think? They're eager to test us. A ripple of uneasy agreement spread through the bridge crew. The truth was simple. Humans fought differently. Other species waged war with political calculations, economic considerations, and ethical debates. Humans. They fought to win. Carter hesitated before speaking. Admiral, what if they send another fleet? A coalition even? Hayes's expression hardened. Then we'll teach them the same lesson. Before Carter could respond, a proximity alert blared through the ship. The main view screen flickered, showing a new arrival, a Xel'nari vessel, massive, and burning from the wounds of the previous battle, limping into the system. Impossible, Rourke muttered. We wiped them out. The ship's hailing frequency opened, and a deep, guttural voice rasped through the speakers. Humans. You call this overkill? No, you call this war. And so, we adapt. The Xel'nari vessel split apart, unfolding into something new, something no human had ever seen before. Hayes stood. Now this is getting interesting. The Xel'nari vessel twisted and expanded, its hull unfurling like a metallic flower in bloom. Except flowers didn't bristle with pulsating energy cannons and shifting layers of adaptive armor. That is not standard Xel'nari tech, Carter whispered. No, it isn't, Hayes agreed, her voice laced with something unusual. Curiosity. They're evolving. The view screen flickered as the Xel'nari captain came into focus. His reptilian features were scarred, his golden eyes burning with something beyond rage. We underestimated you, human, he rasped. We thought you were like the others, governed by rules, by restraint. But you destroy completely. So we learned. We shed weakness. We became something more. The ship vibrated as a pulse of energy surged from the Xel'nari vessel, scanning the Terran flagship with eerie precision. Admiral, they're analyzing our weapon systems, Rourke warned. Their tech is shifting, adapting. Hayes's lips curled into a smile. Now they're thinking like us. The Xel'nari captain leaned forward. This time, human, we will not break, we will not burn, and we will not stop. Hayes crossed her arms. Neither will we. For a moment the void was silent. Then the battle truly began. The Xel'nari ship moved faster than physics should allow, its hull shifting mid-motion, redirecting energy, hardening in response to the Terran flagship's weapon locks. Targeting solutions disrupted, Carter shouted. Every time we lock onto a weak point, it reconfigures. Hayes narrowed her eyes. Smart, but not smart enough. Admiral, they're charging weapons, Rourke warned. A flash of violet light erupted. From the Xel'nari ship, a crackling arc of plasma lashing toward the Terran vessel. The shields held, for a second, Then alarms screamed as energy cascaded across the hull, burning through outer layers. Shields down to 60%. Damage teams, move! Hayes barked, but her mind was already racing ahead. The Xel'nari had evolved past their old vulnerabilities, but that didn't mean they were invincible. Ensign, analyze that energy burst. What frequency? Carter's fingers flew over the console. It's modulating. They're shifting wavelengths, trying to bypass our defenses, Hayes smirked. Good. Let's see how they handle real overkill. She tapped a control on her armrest. All. Forward batteries, load quantum destabilizers. Fire on my mark. Rourke turned, startled. Admiral, those weapons are unstable. If they detonate too close. They won't. Hayes cut him off. The ship's cannons roared to life, releasing a storm of blue-white lances of energy. The first few shots missed as the Xel'nari vessel shifted, adapting. Then the real attack began. The quantum destabilizers activated mid-flight, phasing between dimensions, slipping past the Xel'nari's shifting defenses before solidifying. Impact. The enemy ship shuddered violently as sections of its hull warped, folding in on themselves, reality itself bending. For the first time, the Xel'nari captain's voice held something new. Fear. Impossible. Hayes leaned forward. You wanted to adapt? Then keep up. But even as the Xel'nari ship reeled, Hayes saw it happening. The metal pulsed, new patterns forming, fresh energy flowing. They're still evolving, Rourke muttered. They won't stop. Hayes exhaled slowly. Then neither will we. The Xel'nari ship trembled, its hull reforming like liquid metal solidifying into something deadlier. The twisted scars of the quantum destabilizers became a lattice of reinforced plating, their energy conduits shifting in real time to compensate for the damage. They're learning from the attack, Carter breathed. That should have destroyed them, but they're integrating the effects instead. Hayes tightened her grip on the command chair. Then we hit them harder. A second barrage launched, but this time, the Xel'nari anticipated it. Their ship shimmered, bending space itself, and the destabilizers phased through without impact. Confirmed. Our weapons are no longer effective, Rourke reported. On the view screen, the Xel'nari captain's face returned, bruised but triumphant. Impressive. Human? But now, it is our turn. The Xel'nari vessel exploded forward, moving at impossible speeds. It twisted, vanished, and reappeared inside their defensive perimeter. Impossible! They're breaching our space-time envelope, Carter shouted. Brace for impact, Hayes ordered. The Xel'nari ship unleashed a gravitational pulse, a ripple in space-time that crushed decks and sent crew tumbling. Lights flickered, consoles sparked. The ship groaned under the force. Structural integrity failing. For the first time in her career, Hayes felt a chill of uncertainty. Had humanity finally met something it couldn't overpower? Then she saw it. The flicker, the tiny lag in the Xel'nari's shifting defenses. She grinned. There was always a way. Commander Rourke, get me a direct link to engineering. The screen flashed, revealing Chief Engineer Vasquez. Blood on his forehead, but fire in his eyes. Tell me you've got a plan, Admiral, 'cause we're getting our asses handed to us. Hayes smirked. Oh, I've got a plan. But you're not? Gonna like it. She turned back to the bridge. We've been playing this game wrong. We're trying to outgun them. But what do we do when we can't overpower something? Rourke's eyes widened. We overload it. Exactly. Hayes turned back to Vasquez. I want every reactor on this ship pushed past safety limits. Overclock the core, build the charge. And when I give the signal? Vasquez grinned through the blood. We blow the damn fuse. The Xel'nari thought they had learned what humans called overkill. They were about to learn the real meaning. The ship's hull trembled as power levels surged past safety limits. Reactors hummed like angry gods, their containment fields straining. Warning sirens blared, but nobody moved to stop the madness. Core breach in 2 minutes, Vasquez reported, sweat glistening on his face. We push any further, we're taking ourselves with them. That's the idea, Hayes said, eyes locked on the view screen. The Xel'nari ship, now a shifting predatory mass of energy and metal, hovered just beyond their bow, scanning, adapting, waiting for the kill. It had learned to counter their weapons, their tactics, their strategies, but humans had one final lesson to teach. Victory isn't about outlasting your enemy. It's about making damn sure they go down first. "Admiral," Carter called, voice strained. "If we detonate this close, the blast radius will turn this battlefield into a supernova," Hayes finished. "Which is exactly what we need." The Xel'nari captain's voice crackled through the comms. "You are damaged, broken. Surrender. There is nothing left for you." Hayes smirked. "You don't get it, do you?" She leaned forward, voice dropping to near whisper. "Humans don't surrender. We escalate." And with that, she pressed the final override command. "Vasquez, dump the core." A split second later, the reactors went critical. A surge of white-hot energy erupted from the Terran flagship, not as a weapon, but as a detonation, a controlled annihilation. The Xel'nari ship tried to adapt, its hull twisting, its energy shifting, but it couldn't evolve fast enough. The blast wave struck, folding space-time, overwhelming every defensive measure it had learned. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the void ignited. The explosion rippled outward, a blinding, apocalyptic burst of power that swallowed the battlefield. The Xel'nari vessel, so proud of its endless adaptation, twisted into something unrecognizable, then ceased to exist. The key bridge was a mess of flickering lights, failing systems, and heavy, labored breathing. The ship had survived, barely. "Status?" Hayes demanded. Carter coughed, his console sparking. "Hull integrity at 15%, powering, flickering. But we're here." Vasquez's voice crackled over the comms. "You crazy son of a— hell yeah, we're alive. Mostly." Rourke let out a breathless chuckle. "That was either the dumbest thing I've ever seen, or the most brilliant." Hayes smirked, turning to the view screen. Where the Xel'nari ship had been, there was now only drifting fragments, flickering with the last embers of their failed evolution. She leaned back in her chair. "So," she mused, "think the tribunal is still mad at us?" A sudden beep cut through the silence. A new signal. Carter paled. "Admiral, we're picking up multiple warp signatures. Large ones." The view screen flickered, revealing an entire armada of Xel'nari ships arriving at the edge of the system, each one bigger, each one evolved. The bridge fell silent. Rourke exhaled. "Well, guess they learned another lesson too." Hayes grinned, rolling her shoulders. "Good. That means this is just getting started.